All right, now that we have created this DVD case, we're going to further animate a few things. But one thing I like to do is I want to have some ground that I can be able to see what's going on here. I'm going to create a new solid, and this is going to be a black solid. Now, you might be asking me why? Well, I'll get to it. We're going to put some effects on this black solid so we can actually see it. I am going to click Make This the Comp Size, because I like 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to click OK. Above everything. But I'm going to put a little effect on this one. There's a couple you can do. The first one I'm going to do right now is called Generate Grid. Okay, I'm going to put a grid on it. So what that does is it puts this nice grid on so that when I turn this into a 3D layer, it puts it back here on the same plane as the DVD case. So what I'm going to do now is scale it up and make it really, really big. Super, super big. It's like 500% now, okay? Then if I hit R for rotation and I rotate it in the X value 90 degrees, that'll make it flat. Right now it's on the same plane practically as the camera is, which just happens to be right smack dab in the middle of the DVD case. So I have a couple options. I can either move the DVD case and the camera up, or I can move the floor down. So what I want to do is I'm going to put this floor right on the same surface as the case by hitting position and moving it down, which would be the vertical, okay, this one. And since the DVD case is 2,000 pixels tall, I need to move it down, which would be a positive value. It's backward. Plus 1,000. And that will put that on that same surface. So now I have some perspective to go on. See how you can see the floor moving now when I hit play? Now I have something that I can see. So that's good. Now if I want to get rid of that grid, the only thing I ever have to do is click on this effect up here, or I can just delete it from the effects controls. Now another thing I want to do, I'm going to delete the grid. I'm going to use a fractal noise and render a fractal noise on that. I'm going to make the layer even bigger. I'm just going to make it really, really big. And I'm going to add another one called tint, and I'm going to tint this so that the white becomes a version of this color. So I'm going to start by doing that color, and I'm going to move this out here to the white. Click OK. Turn down the amount of tint just a little bit. And I'm going to turn the brightness of this fractal down so that we can't see it as much. Now, I talked to you a little bit about the accidental placing of, accidental double clicking of a layer. Well, this is a time where you want to double click on a layer. I'm going to double click on the black solid. And right now there's nothing there. It's not rendering the effect. It's just showing me the layer. This is where maybe having this color be a different color would come in handy. So with this selected, I'm going to hit Command-Shift-Y, and that'll allow me to change the color of this so that I can add some feathering to this so that it disappears off into the background. Because right now, I've got this hard line in the background, and I want it to kind of fade away as it goes off into the background. So if I double click on the layer in the timeline, it brings it up in the layer panel. Now I can add a mask to it. and I'm going to select my ellipse tool, but I'm going to double click on it. That'll make this perfect ellipse for this. And then I will hit F for feather, and I'll feather this a whole bunch. And then I'll hit MM, double M, and I'll bring my mask expansion in so that it becomes a really soft oval shape. Now that I've got this mask on here, if I go back to my composition, it's now fading away toward the end. So that's pretty cool. I got this cute little animation happening. Okay, now let's do a background layer. I'm actually going to just go to my project panel, click on my solids, and I'm going to bring in this same one, but I'm going to put it on the bottom. Then I'm going to go ahead and just change the color of this again, Command-Shift-Y, because my other one's got an effect on it, and so I'm going to go ahead and make this solid something like this again. Okay, so yeah, that's the exact same color, but I'm going to go ahead and just make this a darker color and maybe go somewhere like that, just so that I can see the book still. Alright, so I'm going to click OK there, and there's a new solid that I just created. Alright. And I don't need to make this layer 3D because unless it were going to have something moving in the background, some reason why I needed to keep the perspective, just keeping it solid will work fine. Your brain kind of makes it work. All right, so let's do a little bit more animating. I guess I'll just be okay with how this camera is moving. I'm going to go ahead and make the time of it take 4 seconds, but I want it to ease in, so I'm going to hit Function F9, and then I also want it to really settle into place, so I'm going to go to my graph editor, select both of those keyframes by drawing a box around them. The reason why both of these graphs are here is because I had a keyframe for the point of interest and the position selected. And I'm going to drag this handle this way so that it'll really start out fast and then settle into place. So let me look at how that's looking. Okay, all right. So that's a nice settling into place. All right, let's do some position settings of the book. I'm going to have it slide into place. So I'm going to do Alt-P. That's where I want it to end, but I'm at the beginning of my timeline with my playhead right here. So I'm going to select the keyframe at the beginning and move it to like 1.5 seconds. And then I'm going to grab I'm just going to grab this from the top and move it this way from my top view and move it over here so that it's off screen. If I move it just a little bit farther out this way, maybe a little closer, we can do a coordinated movement here. And of course, I'm always adding ease to these, so Function F9, and then I'll hit my graph editor, pull the handle to that one a little bit farther, and then watch it. Alright, so that's fun. Okay, next up, let's do a text layer. And Command T for text. And we'll call this NTM3634 because that's this class. The font doesn't matter, although let me choose a font that you probably all have. I'm going to do Arial. Arial's fine. I'm going to make it black or bold. Arial bold. Let's make this text. let's select a color from here. Let's do the green one. No, that's not bright enough. Let's do, yeah, that one's good. All right, now we need to make this layer 3D. So let's make it 3D. And we need to place it, right now it's sharing space with the book, so I need to pull it out here. And I also need to put it down on the floor. So position, let's make this 0. Oh, whoops. Let's do this plus 1,000. Nope, that put it down too far. All right, let's just put it right here. All right, now here's a little thing about orientation. If I hit Command Option O for orientation, I can tell this text file layer, this text layer, to orient toward the camera no matter where. So no matter where I move this, it's always going to face the camera. Okay? So let's bring it a little closer to the camera. Right there. Now the book teaches us a little thing about doing what looks like extruded text. By taking this text layer as it is right here, and what we do is we duplicate it and we hit P for position, and then we say, we do an Alt selection here, and then we say, we just type this in, and it is this capital COMP dot layer, and then we're going to tell it what layer, but really what it is it's the layer, this layer, which means index, -1, which is the one below it, parentheses, dot. And then you leave this transform position. And then you say plus, whoops, and then in a bracket you put 0 for the X position, comma, 0 for the Y position, comma, and the book says to do 1, but I'm going to do 2, so it does it a little bit faster. So that for the Z position, it'll go back. And then close that with a bracket, and then you hit enter. Oh, whoops, soft return. And I typed that in wrong, I think. I did, I typed it in wrong. Okay, but let's go back in time. Let's go back in time to before I auto-oriented that first layer. Now let's duplicate this and say Command D and take the layer that's on the bottom, because this index, I said index -1, and I said it's going to be the layer below, or the layer next one down. Anyway, what we needed to do is it'll say go to Alt select the position here and type in this comp dot index parenthesis oh sorry, man, I'm all messed up. LAYER parenthesis index -1 parenthesis dot transform position plus bracket 0, 0, 2 bracket enter. Okay, so what that did was it magically made this layer 2 pixels behind the one above it. So let me change this a little bit and make it more like 4 so you can see it. See, watch that separate. Now what it's doing is it's taking its position from this layer, which is the index -1, and it's saying wherever this one is, I need to be behind it 2 pixels. So if I go Command D, then it'll add another one with that same. That might be kind of confusing. So I just duplicated it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So I'm going to take the 4 duplicate layers and I'm going to change the color of them to a much darker color. Click OK, and that'll make it look like we've got extruded text down here. Now I want to take those 4 layers and have them follow. Oh man, yeah, that's not going to work. All right, so what I need to do now is I need to pre-comp these. No, I don't like this. I don't like this. There are a lot of ways to do this, and I don't like the way I'm going about it right now. Anyway, let's rotate this camera around here for a second so you can see what's going on. See that text? It looks like it's got a nice drop shadow or a nice extruded text look going on. So pretty cool, kind of, sort of. Yeah, not good. All right. Let me see if I can make a null object. Make it 3D. Make the position the same as this. And see what happens if I make all these follow that. Okay, so I can use a null object to control that. And then I can use the auto orient towards the camera on the null object to make them all switch around. Yeah. Okay, now no matter where the camera goes, that is always going to be facing it. Okay, I did that kind of fast. So if you're successful with that, make the null object have position settings. If not, you can delete all those duplicate layers and you can have the one text layer orient toward the camera. I really messed that up, didn't I? Okay. Now let's add a position keyframe to the text. Position. And now, because that's where this scene is ending up, I'm going to move my position back here, and I'm going to have this slide off the screen. And then I'm going to have my layer begin right there. So I'm going to trim that layer back to that keyframe and add some easing, which I always do. Now let's see what. Okay, so they all slide into place and stop nice and smooth. All right, so that's fun. The book teaches you a couple other things like adding a little swish as the camera goes through. So if you want to learn how to do all that stuff, that would be fine. So let's do one last thing, and that is let's add a light. So let's right-click in here, New Light. I did this really quickly in the previous lesson, but I didn't really explain what I was doing. There are several different kinds of lights. On this one, I'm going to use a spot. A point light is a light emitter that comes from a single point. Parallel light is like like fluorescent lights. Sometimes those are kind of hard to control in After Effects. An ambient light is if there's lots of shadows being created, you can just add an ambient light. I'm going to use a spotlight because that is just like a camera. It has a point of interest and a position. So it points somewhere. And under this, I'm going to leave the I'm going to put the intensity more at like 70. And then I'm going, oh, I accidentally hit enter. 70, I'm going to have the cone angle be 90. The cone feather is going to be 50. Let's not cast shadows for now because they take a while to render and I don't want to explain them right now. Alright, so if I click OK, now what I can do is I can take the position of this light, P for position, and I can back it away till it's lighting up that book. So I'm going to go to my top view and see where my light is. I'm going to lift it up, and then I'm going to point this down at the ground. Now what I want to do, if I take a look at my scene here, I've got a big area, I've got my book here in the middle, I've got my text out here, and my light is right here behind the text. That's why there's nothing on the text. So I'm going to solve that problem by adding another light, or I'm going to duplicate this light. And I'm going to take the duplicated light and position it back here, and then point it at the text layer. Okay, right now I've kind of got some screwy stuff going on. I really got that wonky. All right. So now let's look at what happens to our scene, because these two objects are actually going to be going into the light. And now, just for giggles, I think it might be fun to add a third light, or duplicate this one, and then put the point of interest in between, but then lift it way high up in the air. So it lights up the floor a little bit. I'm going to move it out. There, that looks good. Now let's see what happens. Okay, that's fun. And we can work on lights more in class. After Effects isn't incredibly sophisticated with its lights. It's more of a compositor, so the lights are kind of limited in the options that they've got, but this was it's a good introduction to them. All right, thanks. Remember to save.